and loved it. And George, you too. I don't think you were there. A really interesting discussion on defining a safe space. And I took lots of notes. It was really wonderful. We
Mm.
didn't film that one because we wanted it to people to just volunteer with their feeling about what made a VR space feel at risk and dangerous, and what was it about the characteristics, as well as dealing with communities and understanding how to keep them safe.
Mhm.
We talked about how do you keep a community safe last night. That was awesome. We've talked about some moderation things, and looking at things from an event perspective, and all kinds of stunning um, topics and perspectives.
Mm.
Really looking at the perspectives. And so we have more events that are coming up. And the next week, let's see, we have a big lessons learned one. And next Wednesday, we're going to be talking about identity and representation in VR and associated with cyberbullying. And that's something I know
Mm.
that Dr. Diaz really does. Okay, I'm waiting
Mm.
for an okay to say they're ready for filming. Do 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 do. Whenever they say, we're just
I already
he's good.
started
Okay, he's
screaming
ready
because
to
you were
go.
saying good things.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. All right, here's the countdown in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another cyberbullying event with Educators in VR. My name is Laurel. I am the Director of Educators in VR, and we've been having amazing discussions this month in October for our annual Cyberbullying Month, covering all the different perspectives and angles. And I'm so thrilled to be here with Dr. Ruth Diaz, who was at our very first one. You were one of our speakers and part of and on
Mhm.
our panel and things on our very first one, like 8 years ago. Can't believe we've been doing this
Wow, that.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you always bring the most amazing perspective and unique perspective,
Mm.
and today is no different. I am your work in conflict resolution and in conflict resiliency and really understanding um, about restorative justice. That's the topic today, and you bring such a unique perspective to this. And today we're not only going to be talking about what this is and how it works,
Oh, excuse
but
me.
how can we whenever you're ready, Steph, welcome to
It's been
VR.
that kind of a day.
That's okay. um and and
Wait a second
and we're
here.
okay. All right, we started filming
Where's
and
my
we're doing the
head? Where's my
introduction.
body?
So
My head
we're
is.
gonna edit.
What?
Steph, Steph.
Can you see this? I'm
I
looking at
love
my body down there, and
I
my
love
head is
that
up
Steph
here.
is accidentally being the troll
Okay.
today. That's just the most precious part.
Yes.
I
Yes.
never.
This is wonderful,
I'm
Steph.
not.
We will be editing Steph out of the video.
No.
So, Steph, if you could mute
You got
yourself
it,
while you
Steph.
figure it out.
Well done. You're doing
Yay,
great.
Steph. Good job.
Uh,
You're back
You're
together.
fine.
Okay. So we count. All right. So where was it? Okay. All right.
Restorative
So,
justice. Restoring
yes,
Steph.
yes. So Dr. Ruth Diaz, hers one of the things she's actually been one of the pioneers in understanding what restorative justice is in the metaverse. And that is such a beautiful thing. And she's going to explain more about this, but I'm going to tell you just really quickly that I am so honored to be with one of my dear friends,
Mm.
Dr. Ruth Diaz, um, who risked life and limb to create
Mm.
and her research of the Troll Project. Very dangerous, my
Mm.
friend. I still to this day am like, oh my God, she's still alive. To really meet with and befriend people who live through violent and mean and bullying behavior, and helping to understand all of that. The Troll Project is pioneering project, legendary. She's also the founder of Bridge Makers and the No Block Initiative, and there's VR
Oh,
Travelers and the Free Hideout, so many different things. But these are no, you didn't found those. Those are
I didn't
programs that you've
find
been working with.
this.
No,
Yeah,
no,
I'm
Bridge
aware.
Makers you
Yes,
did
brown.
with
Yeah.
the Immense Project and also the Dot model, really applying scientific research from a psychological perspective on why do people behave the way they do, how do communities work together and not work together, and how we can make sure that we have the best inclusive, and I don't use this word lightly, really inclusive metaverse experience. because it's too easy to go, okay, Steph was acting weird. I'm just going to ban her and block her and be done
Out
with
she
her
goes.
because she's. Oh,
It
and she just
worked.
went. Oh my god! Oh,
The
Oops.
timing was magical,
Mine just
Laurel.
slipped.
Perfect.
Perfect.
I just made one of my.
This is a show and tell.
On me. Oh my god!
Oh, that was
Okay.
wonderful. Well done.
Oh my goodness, that
It's
was
like I
okay.
paid you
Not
for this, but
I
did
know
not.
it. That was amazing. But anyway, how do we really transform our experience so that we can make sure that we create a welcome space for everyone, and those that are misbehaving, they understand. How can we really overcome our own fears and anxieties about that? So anyway, I'm gonna, before anything else I say anything else bad that's gonna happen. Dr. Ruth Diaz, please take over.
Hello. Yay. Thank you, Laurel. What a lovely show and tell intro. And I also love that, we each have our own seats right now. And so when somebody disappears like that, it's even more obvious, that we feel that missing part. And so today I am really honored to be here. And I also just want to shout out Camel here with us. Camel was with us last year also talking about the Heart Ninjas concept that Bridgemakers was starting to birth. Steph is back. Come on in, Steph. We missed you. And so when we talk about restorative justice, what I've really been meditating on is like, what's the opposite of restorative? And before we go on our World Hub, I think it's good for us to get a frame down of how we're going to not just discuss this, but absorb our environments. So, what is the opposite of restorative?
Destructive.
Maybe. Yeah. So we broke
Punitive.
something. Punitive. Yeah. Yeah. So we punished something. And what I've been thinking about today is the word extractive. So we took something, right? And how do we measure what we're taking from each other? How do we measure how we are adding back in? And how do we hold accountability to ourselves and also the spaces that hold us and even the structures outside of those spaces that limit and direct how those spaces are grown? And the fact that some of us at least are in our headsets, even full body, I wanted to utilize the limitations of this particular app we're in, which is VR chat, which makes it really hard to do PowerPoints. But to some degree, whether that was intentional or just put to the bottom of the list around educating people, I appreciate the boundary of that when I'm not super irritated with it, because it does force us to ask ourselves, why are we looking at two-dimensional images in 3D spaces? And how do we utilize the spaces to teach us what we're trying to learn? I'm also honored that Nico is here with us. Nico, one of your worlds is actually on my list today that we might get to, but probably will at a whole other level, because I think that spatial design is a really comforting and important part of how I go from shaking my fist at the man, whatever we think the man is, shaking my fist at the system that I can't control and saying, if only they did it different, then I could be a good restorative justice practitioner, right? And that the environments we grow tell a much deeper story than anything we're ever going to say to each other. And Nico has built some spaces that not only restore my faith in what virtual reality can teach us and help us become someday, but also his world, one of them has been very recognized by VR chat itself, not just, I think you have several spaces that have gotten awards or you've been participating in worlds that get awards, but particularly is it called Space Exploration World? the spaceship
Exoplanet journey.
exoplanet. Yeah, that as far as I know, maybe even is still a featured world in the home space in VR chat.
Yes,
And
this.
and so this is where we're bridging between the systems outside of our control, and they're bridging back into community design spaces with an acknowledgement that something about Nico's world is really working for people. And it's a very popular public space. And I believe some of the environmental design elements of that actually help it be more constructive than destructive. So having Nico here is such a treat. And Camel, I really want us to talk about your initiative that you've just begun, and loving that we have this time to to see 1 year later, one of the fruits maybe of us meeting and this conversation around heart ninjas as a concept, where that might be going for you, and how much I want to support this iterative practice. So before we get on our journey here with such amazing ingredients, welcome, Carl.
Mm.
I also want to acknowledge that we all have wisdom to bring to this space today. And so you are part of this conversation. Restorative justice to me is not about somebody being the expert above everybody else, but it's about a shared conversation within the container we've been given. And it's about how we add enough with each other that something about the chemistry in this conversation becomes bigger than if we had all gone and thought the most cleverest thoughts on our own. We are mixing something today. We are building something bigger than each of us or even all of us together. And so, to honor and acknowledge the version of restorative justice that I am practicing, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Bridgemakers, which is a community initiative here in VR chat is kind of the main space, but we are app agnostic. And we're about supporting one of the most underserved populations, I believe, in all of social VR, which is the community leaders and those who are holding the space well the structures of the spaces do and don't serve community experiences. And so I am so grateful for Carl to be here, and Laurel, and everybody here is a community builder. And Carl, if it's okay to put you on the spotlight for a second, Carl is with a group called Ancients of VR. And I believe, as far as a community system, from what I've been able to see, uh, Ancients has that grounded eldership presence, kind of like the trees we see in this forest. There's a lot of roots in Ancients that holds pretty steady, while many of the other communities blow down and crack and light on fire, etc. And so there are much I am humbled to be in this circle. Let me say that with these ancients and sages of restorative justice around us. And I am honored to have a spotlight here when I really just wish I could give each of you an hour to talk about what restorative justice means for you, because I think that's a whole series in itself. And so, to start out, though, I'd like to get our blood flowing and utilize this space. I want to honor the space we're in, though, and just give some kudos. What a lot of people don't know as much about me, especially in VR chat, is that I do have a long history of both artistic and looking at the psychology of spatial design all the way back into my undergrad years. I am fascinated with how our environments communicate to us, and I've gotten to study under some really brilliant people that have lineages all the way into the design of Central Park, for example. So, what I love about this space is that it, first of all, the circle we're in is not complete. It has a really wide berth and it allows people to come in and also encourages us to not block that entrance into the circle. Um, and and we're also surrounded by this outdoor area. So what that does physiologically to us is that it allows our eyes to kind of fade out and relax because we're not going to necessarily be confined by the linear buildings behind that natural landscape. There is a very Central Park vibe to this. These kinds of communications tell our bodies that we're safe before we ever really have to think about what is in danger here, how we could be harmed. And when I think about restorative justice, I think about spaces that keep us from being too extracted, too depleted. And I want to give kudos to the design that I'm sure was very iterative. And I know this space from also alt space um, that Educators in VR has developed over time. I don't want to miss where we're beginning for where we're going. Thank you for your service and iteration to keep making this work better and better. It's lovely. As we go, I want to invite you to ask questions that maybe we're going to get to, but I don't want us to not ask questions because I think restorative justice is a lot about asking good questions. And we only get to asking good questions by asking a lot of questions. And over time, our questions get better. So I want to invite that part of how you can react and participate is by either asking questions actively here or even sharing in one of your community spaces, even if it's not bridge makers or educators in VR. Write your questions down and give yourself the chance to start questions that you definitely can't answer and maybe won't be answered for a long time. I like the word question because it has the word quest in it. Questions are doorways to a new journey. And when we get really extracted on and really lost, we stop asking questions because the world just gets way too dark and way too tunnel vision and way too black and white. And so choosing to ask a question is the smallest way we can practice restorative justice. Choosing to bring curiosity back into our bodies and our hearts is a way we start to hope again and try again and learn from each other. And so, with that, are there any questions before we go to our first world? That's a very quiet,
So
quiet
yeah,
answer.
no,
Okay.
I I kept hitting the wrong key to
Oh,
unmute.
to unmute. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just curious about before we go, can you give us just a little bit of a what to look for? I know each place is unique, but are there some standards
Yeah, so
to this?
we're gonna be going on an evolution. Thank you for queuing me up. We're gonna start with punitive justice because that's the one we're all most immersed in, and we have experienced some level of the hardest end of that. Everybody here, even if it's just looking on social media and seeing how many people get canceled and justice is served. But if we go interview all those people in those justices served moments, there's usually just a lot of hurt, aching feelings that will last for many people the rest of their lives if it showed up on social media, also. Um, so, we're going to start with the world and talk about punitive justice very briefly, and then we're going to move to something that represents reparative justice for me. And then we're going to move to the next evolution, which is transformative justice. And by by kind of moving through those spaces, I believe it's kind of mimicking our own evolution as humans. That we do punitive justice because we're so overwhelmed. We need the binaries to just try to make sense of the world again as quickly as possible. And in the short term, very much like corporal punishment or, locking people up or whatever, we feel better, some of us, But in the long term, we destroy what we think we're restoring even further. We extract. So I would say be looking for how the space tells you the story of the message. And then also be looking at your own body and how you feel in that place. And then finally be looking at how this is going to inform you in your own initiatives. So we're going to start with this one. VR chat drama court. And this is it's a group specific space.
Ooh,
Yay.
wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to just say a few things about this world. We could literally spend our entire time in here and learn a lot. We could even get very playful. Um, but what I want to share about this is that this is a type of, I believe, restorative justice, even though that they are playing with punitive justice. Because what they're doing, and you can look at, if you know how to look at your interface
There's
in,
no way that she can wait until I spawn in to start talking.
oh, what
Whoops.
happened? Oh, that's
Oop.
okay. We
She's
good?
so yeah. Just sorry, he's messed with his mic. Could you wait for everybody to get in, including the
Sure.
camera person, before you keep
Yes.
going? So
Thank you.
anyway, he's in here now. Thank
Okay.
you.
I'll start over. So we're in a world called what is this called? VR chat drama court. And I believe this is illustrative of a type of both punitive justice and restorative justice. We're all familiar with the courtrooms and what they do. This is a really popular world, not just in VR chat, but in all of social VR. You can find versions of this in multiple apps. And what it can do is allow us to playfully reenact conflict, um, and work through it with laughter. When we laugh, what we're doing is we're releasing our core, right? And that gets our nervous system to breathe again and to not be in full fight, flight, freeze, fix mode. We're actually starting to release. Now, how we laugh at each other or with each other is key. And I personally have not seen any of these instances where I feel really good and calm about who's laughing and what's being laughed at. But I still would consider, if nothing but a sign of how hungry people are for justice, that this world is an example of people really trying to engage with conflict differently. And I've heard a few stories here and there where people will actually take their real conflicts from a community and bring it to a space like this and work through it. I don't know how legitimate they are. I think a lot of people come to these spaces and get high and like role play all kinds of odd things. But I know that this is a very popular space, and I appreciate that they've made a game out of something that's really painful in physical reality. As far as the spatial design of where we're at, I would I don't want to give these things grades because that goes back into punitive justice, but I would say that there's room to grow around not making people's nervous systems feel boxed in and confined. Um, if we briefly go to the actual courtroom here, and I believe I have to stand up front or something. Otherwise, you might not be able to hear the audio. But, we went from a much smaller space to a much bigger space. And one of the things that communicates to people is to to get out of the small space, right? To join what's happening in the next room. Maybe before they're ready entirely yet. But you can see that there's a lot of boxed areas. It's a very confined space, which is going to make For people who aren't part of the same community, it's just a public room, there's going to be a lot of chance for conflict to happen. And part of how this world creator is monetizing is that they're giving anybody who pays them $5 a gun that will respawn somebody. And what that does over time, if you keep clicking that button, is it's gonna fatigue people to some degree. And either they're gonna come and join more purposefully or they're just gonna leave. And so there's a lot of ways that could get misused, but just noticing how your body feels in this space, what kinds of stories come up for you. Hello, welcome. Got Thomas here. It's an interesting username, Thomas. Rhymes with somebody else's name I know. So we are here and we're going to keep hopping to some other worlds. But before we do that, I'd love it if anybody had a question to ask before we take our next leap. And you might need to come up front and stand next to me to say your question because the audience, I think, there doesn't have a microphone. Okay, can you hear me? You gotta
No, go forward.
walk up
Okay,
to where
now
I'm
can you
at.
hear me?
Yeah, there
Yes.
you go.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now. Okay. All right. This is really fascinating. What kind of groups would use this? I know they're trying to monetize this to pay for it, but what kind of groups? I know that Education VR, we wouldn't touch this, and no disrespect on the space. This is not our thing.
Yeah.
But what kind of groups would use this?
Yeah, that's a lovely question, and I know that there are going to be some answers. I saw Carl raise his hand. I'm going to get the next portal set up, but Carl would be familiar with that more. Do you have some answers, Carl?
Sure. Yeah. Kind of the way Heo was saying that. I'd say the more like serious, conflict resolution is probably more of a rarity because of the playfulness of the space. But I know we've had more than a few events where either some kind of light interpersonal conflict or even just a fabricated conflict that might be a way for people who are, they kind of tease and mess with each other. And then they'll use this as a way to kind of drive that, conflict and make it more into like a friendly, funny thing. But I have seen one instance of, some people like actually had a disagreement and each side was genuinely like preparing evidence to bring in. And I don't think it was this specific world, but it was one of the, courtroom VR chat RP kind of world.
Yeah.
I'd say more on the less serious side of things when using this, but it does give that ability if you really want to lean into it.
Yeah. Thank you, Carl. I think that, social VR attracts a lot of younger crowds. And so with that, we're going to see people who want to play act. That's how we learn what justice is when we're kiddos, right? We role play. And so groups that are going to kind of mockingly work through some of their conflicts can also learn things from each other about how the group dynamics are working together. So I would say role play groups are probably a big one for these spaces, but I've heard of quite a few community groups who use it. Okay, this is the next one. I made this a group plus just because I realized a public educators in VR group space might not have been the best option for our event today. So this is a group plus, and hopefully everyone can see this portal. If you can't,
I can see it, but I can't go through here.
then try joining the educators in VR group.
I can click on it.
Okay. I'm going to do what I was asked and wait until we've all arrived. So I'll.
What did I walk into?
Hi, this is a live
Hi,
stream
Sunny.
event on understanding how the spaces that we grow around us
So
actually
Sunny,
participate
yeah,
in justice.
it's one
Was
of our
that
educators of VR
last guy?
cyberbullying
Was like
events.
serious?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Was he
So
like a?
live
Was he like a?
Yeah.
No,
So
no.
Sunny, it's
No,
one of
yeah,
our.
I understand it's a live stream, but like that guy that was in there was
Yes.
I don't know where was he like an actual criminal
No.
doing criminal
No,
activity?
we were talking.
Oh,
So
no,
Sunny,
no.
yes,
No.
Sunny's one of our educators in VR fans.
Oh,
No,
great.
we're talking about restorative justice, and that was an example of punitive justice. And Ruth, the video camera's here, so this is going to be an example of.
Reparative justice.
Ooh, okay,
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
thought
nice.
that was serious for a minute.
No,
Oh,
no. But it's amazing
go
how
from
the
courtroom to
spaces
this,
that we're
right?
in
It's confusing.
can feel really serious to us, right? They're very
Yeah.
convincing in a way that we don't even think about. And they
Yeah.
impress our bodies, right? So that place can make us
Yeah.
feel very fight and flight. Whereas this
Yeah,
world,
just seeing people in there.
yep,
Like,
just
oh, we're doing
exactly,
this.
it feels really real. So before I finish clicking on this sign, I wanted to acknowledge for anybody who saw the sign before you clicked on it that this is a type of initial boundary setting without giving us a wall of words that really puts forth the values
Hello.
of this space. By clicking this button, you affirm your support for transgender rights and human rights. So it's not elevating transgender rights above humans, it's making them equal. And if we think about the very fundamental idea of repairing, right, to take a pair that is desynchronized and put them back together so they're resynchronized, this is about calling us to remember that people who are trans are human, and one must consent to practice that in here before they can get any further. And yet it's also not punitive. A lot of spaces in social VR will give you a wall of words, and we do have some of those walls up around us beyond that, right? We can see these walls, these and some of them are just information about the space. There's credits, there's rules. So it's definitely giving us a gallery of, if you're not sure what you're doing here, these are your cue cards. Yeah.
I like that first message too was like, you know, forced upon you to a degree of like, I even tried to just kind of move out of people's way initially, but there was
Exactly.
invisible walls up where you couldn't
Yes.
even move out of view of the thing.
So it basically is confining us to acknowledge this isn't even a rule, this is a requirement. This isn't a rule you can break. You have to say yes to this before you move forward. And that's a way to protect the people who are maybe some of the focus, or as you can see, the ribbons, the embodiment and celebration of this space. Yeah. And so I wanted to bring us a little further down, if you'll follow me, and look at, this is probably one of the first places I have actually ever seen openly advertise not just moderation, but mediation. I haven't gotten to experience this or really talk to the teams who are doing this. I'm very curious about it, but this is deeply a core facet of reparative and restorative justice. And this is so lovely to see this growing in a space like VR Chat, which has all the creativity and all the chaos you can ever imagine happening in any human mind. And right next to it, we have a statement about hidden disabilities. And I think the placement of that is really important, recognizing that what we judge as poor behavior in people is many times just a different lens than we're carrying. And so, really making space for, if I don't understand you and you don't understand me, it might not be because either of us are bad people. And if we started with that, how would this conversation go differently? A lot of what happens in social VR, unfortunately, I believe, is a misunderstanding of the information we're gathering from each other when we speak. And so there could be a time where this has actually happened with you and I, Nico, where you just haven't been talking that night and you type instead of talk. But I will feel this sense of, oh no, what did I do? You're not talking to me anymore. You don't want to speak. And then I'm like, well, it couldn't have been me. I feel great about us. So then I look at who did this to Nico. Why isn't Nico speaking? Who took Nico's voice away? So I will sometimes have these little flurries of ideas that Nico not speaking means something's wrong. Nico got hurt. And that might not be true. But these are these places where we have this fluency of how we communicate, and our minds can start to fill in the blank. And I can start to make up a story about you very quickly. Like Carl, half the time when I'm around Carl and we're around each other often every week, Carl comes in on desktop. And sometimes I can feel like, oh, I can't read Carl's body language. Is Carl really here? Is Carl really paying attention? But Carl's taking care of himself. And it's taken a practice of me learning how to trust that just because I don't see all the information doesn't mean I know what's happening and doesn't mean my fears are true. And so restorative justice is having to take those unconscious parts of us that normally can assess in physical reality pretty easily. Like Camel's body language is head to toe, right? And feeling that fluidity in Camel could make me actually more attracted to talking to Camel than talking to somebody on a desktop or on a mobile phone, because I can feel Camel responding to me head to toe. And these are ways that we end up with conflict that are nobody's fault, but still can create real rifts that split and go very, very far. And this space that we're in is acknowledging that in these two signs really stunningly. And I also appreciate the vibe of this space, even though it is full of rainbows and reminding us of the gradient of our humanity and reminding us to be very respectful of the representation and the identities of transgender. This space to me feels like it's welcoming everybody. This is about genuinely transforming community. And so before we go to the next world, wow, we are so out of time already. I'm going to only get to pick one more. And then, Camel, I want you to talk a little bit about No Block Initiative. What is one or two questions that come up for people in this space?
Such a good one. I don't have any.
Okay.
We also started late, so if it runs over a little bit,
Okay,
it's okay
you're
too.
okay with that? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm okay going another 10 minutes over, but I don't want to push us through too many worlds without giving us the chance to really like enjoy the spaces we're in, because each of these spaces could be its own, like literally this mimics a university. We could have so many things happen in here. Yeah, what questions or a reflection even to honor the space we're in before we go to the next one?
Artistically speaking, it's extremely well done. Just
Yeah,
really well done.
exactly.
Yeah, it's really well done. One of the issues I have is that people don't read in VR. And
That's true.
so I'm curious about having so many words.
Yeah, thank you for
Is
that.
is often confusing, overwhelming, and
Yeah,
intimidating. And so having bullet points, like I like the first one, to big letters, little letters, in that one that said here's the guidelines. That's wonderful.
yeah,
The rest, there's just too many words, and that's a constant struggle
yeah.
with people, coming into VR with the headsets or 2D or otherwise, being able to digest a lot of information in a short amount of time visually.
Really well put.
And I'm sure it creates conflict.
And so the question that I continually ask myself, and some of my mentors, my best environmental mentors, have pushed me really hard on this. Don't worry about this portal. I'm going to redrop it in a second. Is that the question is, how do we tell each other what the culture is without using written words? And I believe that there are ways to do that. And the next space we're going to go to is going to be an example of that for us to look at. Even though it is a lot harder, one of my mentors for about, I think, 2 or 3 months, he would come into my spaces and say, okay, make a copy of this space and take all the words out, all of them, and tell me what the world tells you without any of the words. And that was so hard, but I started
like
to
that.
understand how much the words become placeholders. And then they never get replaced with actual environmental design and genuine influenceable connections. So let's look at this next one. And we're going to hear about Camel's initiative over here. You coming, Lorel?
I was considering to let the folks up front know, but they just might not be participating because it's.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
My worry of this world is some people will lag that's on Quest. That's the only worry I have.
Oh, really? Are you lagging?
Yes. No, I'm on PC,
I'm on
but I've
Quest.
come in here on Quest and I've lagged.
No,
That's
I'm
my
okay
only
on
worry
that.
right there.
No,
Okay.
it's fine on Quest. I'm on
Okay.
Quest 3, it's okay.
Yeah, thank you for letting me know.
Oh,
I didn't know that. I've met a lot of questies in here, but I have heard them talk about lag in certain areas. So
It's especially if it's the number of people that are coming in together, not just a couple of people visiting.
yeah,
Because there's a lot of synchronization going on, like when you have all the people like running up there, putting the stones.
yeah,
Yeah.
But,
And it's across all the
but yes,
worlds,
okay.
right? So if the world itself is really popular
Yes.
at that time, it'll probably be
Yeah, it's a lot
laggy
of
even in a
data.
small instance.
Yeah, a lot of data loading.
maybe. I've actually gotten to know the world creator a little bit, and there is things in place to prevent that from happening. As far as what our headset is picking up on when it's far, far away. This creator is. I'm honored to have gotten to spend some time with them, and they've designed this world very purposefully. And so I just want to point out a few elements. It's a much deeper process than we're going to get far into today, but I just want to acknowledge that this is a different wall of text than you maybe have ever seen before. Even though it's really just telling you how to have the best experience when you're here, it's also implicitly of sorts implying something about the culture of this space. Does anybody have ideas on what this is? And Camel can cheat if he remembers, because I already took a group here recently. What do this text also implicitly tell us? Oh, Sunny's got an idea. Yes, go ahead, Sunny.
Maybe they used a particular font.
That's interesting. It was very intentionally designed, right? So the font can absolutely influence us. But the key word I want you to recognize here is it says allow untrusted URLs. That's kind of scary, right? But the implicit part is it's actually saying this is a space to take a risk and trust each other. You'll have a better experience. And that's dicey. But what it does do is it says there's an adventure here that's better if we can all connect to things that are going to be happening. That a URL is going to be used in this space that will make us want to keep going. And even though that's a technical way to navigate the VR chat space, the tower we see behind us that I was at first kind of skeptical and a little bit like, oh, here's another group of humans that are actually just kind of doing a pointless activity together. The reason this world to me embodies not just restorative justice, but I would say transformative justice, is because the bricks that you cut out of the mountainside here and you take all the way up that spiral, it's very hard to see the top of it at this point. That spiral has been built by people in VR chat, one brick at a time. And when you get to the top and you're placing your bricks, you can see these blue brick areas appear where other copies of this instance, other people are laying down bricks in other spaces. And you can see them appearing. And that sounds really simple, but the thrill after climbing for 2 to 3 minutes to get up there and see the ground rising beneath your feet, it's a really unique experience. If you haven't tried it, I'd encourage you to try it. And when I thoroughly digested this with one of my friends, one of the things I predicted, which turned out absolutely true, is I said, I bet I can go into a public instance right now, hit record on a live stream, and somebody's going to tell me that A, they normally don't go to public spaces and actually like communicate with strangers, and B, they come only to this world to be in a public space because it's predictably a better space than not. And that's exactly what happened. First world alternate instance I hopped into, you can watch it on the Bridgemakers live stream area. Somebody said those exact words when I came in. And so why does this world become a transformative justice? The ache on my heart is I believe this world is reminding people that they can influence their space constructively. When I drop a brick up there, it will always be there as long as the world creator or VR chat exists. I built something that other people built with me that made the adventure a little bit longer, but maybe more togetherness with every brick built. Also, the funnel, when you go into a public space, you're going to see trolls running by. There's a lot of trolls that come into public spaces. I was literally usurped by a Taco Bell that spawned in here, and it came around our live stream when we didn't go into it, like an entire building of Taco Bell. But ultimately, even the trolls who wanted to see what we were doing learned to come and sit down and listen. And so what this funnel, I believe, is doing is getting us to like run together towards something purposeful. And then the activity after you've run for a little bit is down at the end. And there's also on the other side, if you don't want to be really active, there's a tent with tea you can serve and kind of play act. And then if you want to climb all the way up there, one of the magical parts I think this creator designed well is there's a narrow funnel that takes you all the way to the top. And you don't want to grind at that, as the gamers say, and just go for 3 minutes in a spiral. But these avatars we're wearing, some of them have seats on them. And I haven't seen it yet, but my plan is to come back to a public instance until I capture this. I believe that you're going to start to see, or it already exists, you're going to see all kinds of people attaching to each other like an organism. So only one person has to do the running and everybody else can carry the bricks. And if you think about what that means is it becomes a group creature. It's asking people to join together. Yeah, Sunny, I see you raising your hand. Thank you. Oh, Sunny, I can't hear you. Can everybody hear Sunny?
Oh, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay, I was just trying to say that my avatar actually has seats on it and that I can fly like 3 people up there.
Yeah, exactly. And so thank you for that offering. This is what this world is doing, is it's causing people with very simple elements to learn how to build a puzzle together. And that to me is super, super touching. Oh my gosh. And actually, one of my design friends, I just realized I have a meeting with him. And so he's going to hop in here, hopefully, hopefully not kill me for it later and be part of the last of our world hopping. And so we can all gently welcome DJ Carson because we were about to start our meeting when he comes. But yeah, what are the questions coming up just looking at this space and thinking about the idea of transformative justice, where we're not just repairing it, but we're also designing a better system that works for everybody?
I think it's pretty cool that everyone can like work together.
Hello, welcome. Just heads up, I'm finishing up a stream. You're welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Okay. I was just nerding out on this world. And this is Educators in VR event. You know Laurel. You know Nico. You know a lot of the people in here. But yeah, really glad you're here. And then we'll go on our thing after this. Thank you for your patience with it. Yeah. So sorry. Please, who was talking there? Somebody was talking. Was it Sunny?
I was.
Go ahead, Sunny.
I was just saying that I think that it's really neat that you can come into this world and everyone works together as a community to help build this giant monument.
Yeah. And so my point here is how much are the spaces that really mostly a limitation of the technology? Because it wasn't, I think, even until maybe about a year ago that what it's called, and world builders correct me, I'm going to say this wrong, but an instance that is persistent, like the world has memory that you were there before, was only released in the last year. But VR has been around for a long time, right? So up until a year ago, we couldn't influence, in many respects, the spaces we were in and know when we came back there, that influence, whatever was designed that we could change, would still remember us and see that we were there. And what that can accidentally do by just the limitation of the technology is tell us that we're not in control of our environments and we can't change how we relate to the space we're in. And as soon as we're able to constructively go through an experience and know what the rules are and feel the flow together, all of a sudden we have common ground and we're shaping that space. So with that as a preview, I'd really like to turn over just for a few minutes to Camel, and Camel, give you the floor to just share a little bit about this initiative. And if you aren't already, good, you're representing it. So if you all want to click on the bubble around Camel, if you have your square menu open, look at the group that Camel's representing, and we can hear a little bit about. Hi, Slay. Welcome. We're just finishing up a live stream here. Glad you're here. Camel, tell us a little bit about the No Block Initiative and what you're doing there. And maybe just
sure.
If you want to tell a little bit about what your focus is on life, like anything you might be studying, just that idea of what your calling is. That would maybe give some context here.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah. So I guess, yeah, without going into too much detail about it, a few years ago, one of my family members had an episode of psychosis, and it kind of shook everything that I knew about people, and this person that I'd known my whole life is suddenly somebody else. And then I have other friends who are talking about a different person who say something like, how they're talking about how they believe that people are their actions. You are you are what you do. And when I know this to be not the case always, it doesn't really tally, and it changes the way that you see everybody really. And I started recognizing that people are simply a product of their circumstance, their genetics, and the whatever has happened in their lives to bring them to this moment in their life. And that kind of thinking led me to the kind of thinking that is that there is no such thing as good people and bad people. There's no such thing as inherently bad or inherently good. We are just people that are trying to do our best to manage in the society that we find ourselves in. And then I found VR chat, and I found that there were people that try to provoke. There were trolls that will scream in your face and they'll say racist slurs that I don't believe that they actually necessarily believe in. They're not actually racist people necessarily. They're just trying to get a reaction. And yeah, I was talking to one of my friends about this, and he said, "Let me introduce you to Heyu. She runs this group called Bridgemakers, and there's a similar discussion going on there about heart ninjas, which is along the same lines, which I was obviously involved in for a bit, and I still am. What I kind of came to believe about the goal that I want to achieve is that I don't want it to be something that is a community that is headed by a specific person or is moderated really by a team of people. I want it to be a group rather than a community that people can join if they share the sentiment of the group, what the group stands for. And then obviously I don't know what the audience of this is like, but in VR chat and social VR, when you create an instance of a specific world, you get the option of creating it as a group instance. So you can have a group public instance. So that instance represents that group, but anybody can join it. They don't have to be a member of that group. So what I really hope for this group is that once it reaches a certain size, hopefully, that when people create these group instances that represent this group, it will be essentially mostly people that share that mentality, where trolls aren't evil people. They are just people that are trying to connect with other people, but they don't really know how for whatever reason. They're just doing what they understand. And I really want to be in one of those instances when the group gets to a certain size where I want to witness that happening. I want to witness somebody that is seeking to be disruptive, meeting this group of people that don't react in the way that they're expecting. They react with acceptance. And that's the idea.
Thank you, Camel. Such a lovely and literal grassroots story of how your own journey to waking up. And I just wanted to welcome Liam. Thank you for being here. We're just finishing up a live stream right now. But I think that transformative justice starts with me. And restorative justice is the umbrella that gets me onto not just can I stop just taking, but make it better, right? That's restorative justice. But transformative justice is, can I become part of something that isn't about me fixing it, but can be so flexible. I always, when I think of transformative justice, I think of the torus shape instead of the pyramid. And that torus shape is recycling the power energy and the decision-making power so that everybody is taking turns holding that inner ring of decision and building the next iteration. And what Camel is highlighting here is that one person going into an instance and saying, I will not block anybody who shows up here. That is an act, and that is an intense act. It's not going to work as well because a lot of the people that are provoking are not just provoking you, they're trying to provoke whoever's around you. It's a group wound. And to meet a group wound, we have to have a group. And so starting with such an audacious and true thing, which is just, I choose to grow a group that is going to hold and trust and build relationship with whatever comes. That is an incredible, incredible testament to what not just restorative justice is living here with us right now, but what transformative
Beautiful.
justice might be someday. What
Yay!
what
That
if
was
we
gorgeous. Thank
what
you.
if we look at VR as a place for us to transform into the next iteration of our humanity that releases the punitive justice and allows us to become so present with each other that when we're wounded, we also say, how can we do this better? And we keep asking that question over and over.
That's
Okay.
beautiful.
That's the end of my
Okay.
speech. Thank you.
I want to thank Dr. Ruth Diaz for giving of her time as part of our Educators in VR Cyberbullying Month. Everybody, please give her some hearts. She needs all of the hearts and the love. We love our Dr. Diaz, so beautiful, and it's this is a transformative kind of experience, and I wish we had more time to talk about it, to really open up and help us understand it. But don't worry, she's going to be back, and we have more cyberbullying events that are coming on. And please check out Bridgemakers. It's an amazing program that is working with some of the best leaders in social VR and the Metaverse to really help us understand the layers to this. And there are many, many layers to make sure that we understand what inclusivity means, we understand what tolerance means, we understand what acceptance means, and we build and design and grow our communities and our worlds with these thoughts in mind. And you've shown us some wonderful examples. Thank you. And thank you to Carl and Camelbone and everyone else that's here.
Everybody
really appreciate everybody.
I'm sorry we
and
didn't
yes,
get to your
thank
world,
you.
Nico.
Yeah.
Check out Nico's
But thank
world.
you. Yes, please. Everybody's probably already been there. There are such wonderful worlds.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you all, and thank you for being part of the Educators in VR Cyberbullying Month. You can find a list of all of our events at educatorsinvr.com, also in our Discord and our social media. And I think they're being posted in Bridgemakers. I don't know. We have to find out.
Yes, they are.
Double check there. They are? Okay, excellent.
Yes.
And also want to invite you all, not only to our Educators in VR events and our Educators in VR group that you can join to get update of information here in VR chat. Forgot, still a new thing for me here. We also have a Halloween party in Vertex Form 3D. Vertex Form 3D was founded by Evgenia Simmons after the closure of AltSpace, and when she built her whole travel business on the backbone of AltSpace, and then, like many of us, poof, it was gone. And she was so frustrated with it, she decided to create her own platform, but it's not just like a platform like VRChat or anything. This is a modular, Unity-based open source framework that the core of it is completely free, and you can, within very short time, build your own independent apps. And it's in the Quest store. So if you, for whatever reason, for teaching, for, you can bring this world right into, well, I'm sure there's some mood on, but anyway, the idea is if you could bring your world in and have it just be independent for whatever usage you want to have and build your own VR app, Vertex Form 3D is really doing groundbreaking work, and they're working with creators to create plugins and extensions and things, Unity-based ones, to add in functionality to this as well, and they're going to sell your goodies to help build worlds and things. Really fascinating. So their holiday Halloween festival party is on right now in Vertex Form 3D. It's in the Quest store, and so we're going to be heading in that direction now. So again, thank you, Ruth. Last words?
Before we go, can we all stand in front of this to get a picture of the restorative justice talk? It feels like
Lance?
a very sweet moment, and I got my camera out, so I will grab it.
Yeah.
But just
all right. Where do you want me? Okay.
Remember this moment. We did this together, and yes, Don, hopefully you're in here too. Woo!
Yay!
Stands with Justice, get in here too. Yay!
No, Stands with Trees is filming.
Oh, Stands with Trees and Justice. Okay.
Oh, just Justice here? Okay.
Yay! Okay, lots of hearts, lots of hearts. There's Don. I'm standing behind people. Thank you, everybody. I
Yay.
apologize for going
Okay.
over time, but